Welcome to the Cool Fireman Podcast, a virtual firehouse kitchen table with What's a Rolfie, Unky, Fireman 1231, JDB Cubed, and Fireman Freddy. Let's get to the show. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cool Fireman Podcast. Here we are. You made it. Thanks for stopping in. We're on episode 10. We made double digits. And it's all because of you guys. You're a part of it. Thanks for listening. Today, we are going to be talking about promotions, moving up in the ranks, what it means to be promoted, how do you get promoted, earning that collar brass, and once you get into that position, what you need to do to be somebody that is a leader or a mentor to the firefighters that are coming up underneath you. So across the country, I'm sure there are 100 different ways that fire departments promote. Me personally, I've heard of a couple of different ways. There's ways that it's straight seniority. You get hired and you don't get promoted till the people above you leave. And it's just you climb the ladder based on years going by. There's other ways that are testing. So after you have a couple of years on and a position becomes available, you can test for it. And then the person that gets the best score gets promoted. They have ones that my department in particular kind of takes a whole bunch of things into effect. You got to have a certain amount of years. Once there's a position that's open, you can take the test for it. And then your annual review is worth 20%. Your seniority is worth, I believe, 30%. You have your test is worth 40%, and your seniority is worth 10% or something like that. It's a percentage. There's an oral interview that's a part of it too, and there may not be one perfect way to do it, but if we're gonna take stands, if we're gonna share our own opinions here, I believe personally that straight seniority promotions could be dangerous because you might have somebody who is up for promotion and they're not really interested in taking the officer route. They're somebody who is a grunt. They want to do the work. They want to go inside. They're not looking to do paperwork. They're not looking to be a part of the administrative bureaucracy, if you will. So I personally really like the testing, the oral interview, because then it really puts out there the people who want to take that officer path. They're able to say, yep, I want to do this. I'm going to study for the test. I'm going to make sure that I'm the best person for that job. Rolfie, I know that you are actually being promoted here pretty quick. So this topic is something that might be kind of polarizing for you personally. So tell me a little bit about your department and the process that you're going through right now.
Yes, I am definitely polarized by this topic. I have been in the promotional process for probably the last 4 years. And the reason that is because I went from firefighter, I'm now an engineer. I've been an engineer for about a year and a half. And so, when you decide that you want to go into the next rank, it takes X amount of time for studying. And, some people can study in 2 months. Some people can study in 2 weeks. I'm more of I like to start studying about a year out. And that's just reading policies and, just slow and go. And then, that also includes operationally, for the rank of engineer and people that aren't listening, people that are listening that aren't in the fire service, engineer is the driver. So I'm, in charge of getting the crew to the fire or to the medical aid, whatever it is, safely in the fire engine, and then pumping the fire engine, get water out of the engine to the fire. Anyways, I just wanted to just say that real quick, I guess. But yes, so, I started about a year out. So that's been about 2.5 years. And then I work for a smaller department. And so you got to kind of gauge when you're going to promote off of when you think guys are going to start leaving. And, it's up to some of us in the department to step up and kind of get ready for that next rank. And even if you're not necessarily ready in your career, I mean, I've got 16 years left in the fire service. And I'm not saying that I want to be a captain for 16 years, but it's like we only have 36 of us on the floor. And so we've hired 10 to 12 new guys in the last 2 to 3 years. That's a third of our department. And so us guys that have been on for 10 years or so need to either, some of us need to step up because they're going to need to have guys for the next position. And so some of the guys that are listening or girls that are listening to this podcast, some of you guys work in big departments where you don't have to worry about that. Maybe Doug doesn't have to worry about that. On the other side, for the county, they don't have to worry about that. They can kind of promote when they want because it's a huge department. There's always guys filtering in and out, and they're always having promotional tests. As far as like what you talked about, just straight seniority, throw a comment on this video wherever you're at and tell us about that situation. Cause I don't know, that doesn't make sense to me. Now when you talked about how you give 30% of weight to seniority, that's also very interesting to me. I mean, we don't do that in our department. It's basically, hey, you want to be the next rank? Okay, apply. If you meet the requirements in order to be an engineer, I think you have to be a full-time firefighter with the department for at least 3 years or so. I think it's around that. And then you have to have your certain certifications. So all those classes that you got to take, pump, operator, blah, 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 blah. And we don't give any type of preference or preferential treatment to guys that have been on the department longer than anybody else. I mean, the guy that's been there for 3 years or the guy that's been there for 10 years are going to battle it out. We're all going to test manipulative tests with pumping for engineer. We don't need to go through all that, but each test has its own components. And whoever rises to the top, is going to get the interview with the fire chief, and then you got to, plead your case.
So you guys are doing both physical and like written tests,
yeah,
to get promoted. I really like that actually.
To stay brief with it, because we could talk about it all day. To stay brief with it, to get into engineer, I had to do a 5-part manipulative test, and so that includes driving around the city. And they ask you questions about the driving policy during that 1-hour drive. And then I also had to do a cone course. We call it the rodeo.
Yep.
And you guys might have that. There's like 7 different events, backing and doing
the serpentine,
parallel park, the whole deal.
The diminishing returns.
There you go. The diminishing return. Yeah. And then we drive to another location and we do pumping. And so we show up. You check out your rig and they say, you ready? All right, take that hydrant and I need a 3/4 line off the back. And that's how you start. Boom, you get your water supply and you're off to the races. And they typically take you to cavitation. And they want you to basically be like, hey, this is my compound gauge. This is what I'm reading. This is what I can give you. And it's a whole they want a thinking engineer, a thinking firefighter, not just somebody that can read a book. And so that's in a nutshell what we do for manipulative testing. And then we also have a written test where there's about 100 questions and it has to do with pump theory, driving policies. We have to do, friction loss calculations, formulas, and all that kind of stuff. And that's just for engineer. And then it goes for, so obviously like I said, I've been in the promotional process for the last 3 or 4 years because now I'm training to be a captain. And our captain's exam is manipulative as well. And then it's also, we go and we do a chief's interview and all that, but we have to do a full-blown fire scenario with it up on the screen. And you've got other, proctors there asking you questions. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's incorporated in that. Like I said, I'm trying to stay brief, but that's, it takes a long time. I mean, there's in-basket stuff where, to be a captain, it's not just, get on the right side of the engine and do a size up, that we have to deal with employee stuff. You got an employee that comes in late, 3 shifts in a row. What are you going to do? That kind of stuff. So that's all incorporated into our test. And then at the end of the day, the fire chief has the end result. He's the, or she is the, in our case, it's a he, but he kind of has the last decision. And you go in for that chief's interview and you vie for that spot and you tell him why you're better than those other candidates. So, which is weird for us. in the
Yeah.
promotional process. Guys that are listening to this that are getting ready to promote, it's weird sitting in front of, the fire chief, and he says, dude, why you and not them? And you have to sit there and advocate for yourself. And as a firefighter, like, we don't necessarily like doing that. We just like to come to work, do the best we can, and go home safe to our kids and our family. So you got to kind of get over that hump, and you got to be like, hey, this is what I do for the department. This is why I'm the best candidate for the job. So
You got to sell yourself.
yeah,
Absolutely.
100%.
So, so Unky, with the DOD, is it, with the military, I know that they're within their ranks, you have to have a certain amount of time in rank before you're able to get promoted. And then when you get 4 years, you can be promoted here and there. Does that stuff spill over into your fire department, or you guys kind of have your own thing?
It does a little bit, but we kind of do our own thing within the DoD. In my branch of the military service, we're different than the other areas in the United States. I'm not sure much about the captain's promotions and on up, how it's actually done when people sit in and interview, but we have to apply online. USAjobs.gov or com, I can't remember which one because I don't care to be promoted. They'll solicit the position for captain, and you just kind of fill out your resume. You submit your resume. They'll give you all the criteria of everything you need, where that job is being posted at. Because my fire department, we range over like 13 states, about that much. So where I'm at in Virginia, I can apply for a job in Indiana. And if I want to get promoted, I can go up there. I can go to Chicago, Maine, and that's all with it being internal under my regional fire chief. Then there's also, I can apply for other DoD branches, others, because I'm with the Navy, so I can apply for other Navy regions. I can apply for Army bases, Air Force bases, Coast Guard bases, but that's what we call external hiring when it's not under our personal umbrella. It does get confusing. I'm not a great storyteller, but we have ranks of lieutenant is our first rank, which is our engineer. And under my umbrella, my region, our drivers are called lieutenants. So they get the one bugle and everything. 1-page resume, and it's given to your district chief, and he flips through it and picks who he wants. There's no human resource stuff. It's a collateral duty, as it's been ruled by the chiefs. It's a collateral duty, no extra pay. It's supposed to be a stepping stone. Yeah, it's supposed to be a stepping stone. So you're the driver every day, unless the officer's gone for the day, then you step over to the officer's seat.
Okay.
And so that's 1-page interview. Trying to think of anything else about our interviewing process. Oh, the time frame. We're on a pay scale when you first come in. When you first come in, depending on your background, what cert you have, you can be. Our grade scale is called GS. So you come in as a GS 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. 7 is full potential. So 3, you come in, you have no certs. We're sending you to a little academy, you get some certs. And each year you can go up a grade till you get to 7, as long as you meet all your requirements. 7, you're a full-fledged firefighter. You have to be a GS 7 for 1 year to apply for the next level, which is captain. So you don't even have to be a lieutenant, chosen, because human resource doesn't believe in that position. So you can go from firefighter. So you can come to us, and 1 year you can put in for captain, as long as you have all your certs, everything you need. And after 1 year of that, you can put in for a battalion. After a year of that, you have to hold that grade for 1 year before applying for the next grade.
So that's wild. So somebody right off of probation could end up putting in for captain if they came in with their GS7 grade, because let's say they worked on a fire department for 15 years prior to coming to the the DOD or the Navy or what have you.
Yeah, we got a gentleman that I like a lot. I like him a lot. He came from my brother's department. He was with us for about maybe 2 years. Actually, a handful of those guys came in within 2-3 years. They picked up a promotion, and a year later they picked up another promotion.
Wow.
So we got one guy that's gone from firefighter to battalion chief in 5 years, being new, and he's about to pick up the next rank. We all kind of see read between the lines. He's going to be the next shift commander.
Wow.
That's wild. You know, and that brings up something that you said right at the beginning, Unky, was that you have absolutely no desire to promote. And those people are out there. Those people are listening right now. Like Matt, you're into it. You're in the thick of it. You're in the weeds. Your feet are wet. You're ready to go. Unky, like you said, man, I want to be on the line. I want to, bring up the new guys. Not interested in the paperwork, not interested in all the rigmarole. Before I left my previous department, I don't know if I've shared this story, but we decided as a union and with the chief that we were going to add a rank to our fire department. We were going to start, or we had them, we lost them. We were going to bring them back. They were sergeants. The whole reason we wanted to add sergeants was because we had firefighters that were getting promoted to lieutenant. And on my department, you only had to have one officer working for the day. So if you had two officers working and one of them wanted to leave, they could take off vacation, sick time, whatever, and there wouldn't be an officer calling. So you'd have a guy who was a firefighter for 10 years. He gets promoted. His first week of being a lieutenant, he's in charge of the whole city and everything. And we as a union, we're like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So we spoke with the chief and we're like, hey, we want to create this sergeant's position and almost as a grooming position for a lieutenant. We want them to shadow lieutenants. We want them on dumpster fires, on, room and content fires, something like that, where they're able to actually run a scene under the direction of a lieutenant or the captain. And that way they have some hands-on, like running the experience. So that all happens. We test for it in my previous department. If that's another thing that I wanted to get to, but we tested for it. We created the eligibility list. We were ready to start promoting. I was called up to the office by the chief and he's like, Freddie, just want to let you know, we're promoting you to sergeant. We're going to be moving forward with your promotion. And I said, crap. And he looked at me and he goes, what? I said, well, I had planned on talking to you on Wednesday. This was on a Monday. So I had planned on talking to you on Wednesday. I actually need to put my 2 weeks in. And he said, what? And I said, I accepted another job with another department. And yeah, don't file that paperwork because, and we talked and it was what it was. But I was fully invested. I was fully ready. I wanted to take that officer route. On my new department, it's definitely not something that I'd rule out, but I really like my role where I'm at right now. Getting in the thick of it. With my new department, we changed trucks a lot. So we're on a whole bunch of different trucks. My previous department, it was strict seniority. If you had guys underneath you, then you would move yourself up to what vehicle you were on. So now I'm able to get the nozzle. I'm able to pump some days. I'm on the ladder some days. So I kind of like this role that I'm in. And I've actually, with the Fire Academy, I've been taking a lot of courses that I'm able to instruct. So I've kind of taken a different role in my career now. But with that being said, do either of your departments keep active promotional lists right now to where if a position opens up, then, hey, we have a list already ready and we'll promote off of it? Or is it an on-demand promotion where like, hey, we had somebody retire, everybody shifted up one, and now we need to test for it? Because I see pros and cons with both, and I'm going to let you guys comment on it, and then I'm going to kind of tell you what I thought about it.
My department, we have one for about it'll last 30 or 90 days. So when they put out, say they need people to apply for captain, they'll do the process, everybody interviews, do all the stuff they need to do to be some kind of ranking system. And after that, they'll promote all the people that they need. And if they know that somebody's coming up, like, Matt's retiring next month, but we need to get all these captains now, they'll go ahead and make all the captains. And sometimes they'll hold it and wait for that extra guy to retire or move, and they'll promote in his spot. They have the right to get rid of the list. Human resource has the right to get rid of the list. Even though we want to keep the list for a couple more days or extend it, they can get rid of it. So it's usually about 30 or 90 days. So roughly, once that promotion is done and over with, that's it. You have to try it next time.
Yeah. We're way different. So during the promotional process that I had mentioned or, tried to explain before, that's good for 1 year. So let's say I took my engineer's exam in September, 365 days from that day that it was certified by HR, it's good. So if somebody retires and an engineer's position comes available, then we have a list for 1 year. And there is an option, which is typically exercised to make it a 2-year list. So another example, I took my captain's exam in June of last year. I passed. And so just to add another element to this discussion which is really cool, what my department does is that if you pass a test, then you are eligible to become an actor. And so
a bump up.
Yeah, we call a bump up different than acting, and I'll explain real quick.
Yeah.
So, so since I passed my test in June, now I can put in availabilities for captain overtime. And so if a captain calls out sick and there's no captain signed up, or a captain has vacation in and nobody signed up in that captain rank, if I'm signed up, they can slot me in there and I get an acting position where I'm the acting captain that day on the engine. Now, my captain that I work for now is an absolutely amazing, and he's into, wanting me to get promoted and succession planning. And so when I'm working as an engineer and he's a captain, sometimes I'll bump up into his position and he can drive. And so I'm basically there as a bump up actor. But the nice thing is that I can, if shit's hitting the fan and I get in the weeds, he can take over,
you can lean on him.
And I can lean on them. Whereas an acting shift, dude, like, you're it, man.
Yeah.
You've got your cell phone on, who hopefully at 2 a.m, you got a question or you got something shit's going sideways. Excuse my language, but, and you got to call the chief or whoever to, phone a friend. It's just the way you learn. It's just the way you learn. But, I love that the fact that, if we got a big list, I mean, there were 7 guys that took our last captain's exam, 5 of us passed, and I think 3 have been promoted so far. And so the rest of us, or 2 have been promoted. So 3 of us are left on the list. And I mean, they're like, we have a good list, and so they'll probably extend it another year. So that, that takes a little bit of pressure off of me, but at the same time, like, I still got to be on my game. I'm still learning, I get to these acting positions, but like, you're acting up, you're the man, or you're the woman, whatever you want to say. So
that's a really good, that's perfect lead into why I personally believe that establishing a list and having that list be good for a year, and having an active list, whether there's a promotion coming or not, I think is a great idea for departments, because now you can identify within your department people who are interested in being those officers and being those people who want to take the next step in their career. 2, now you have guys and gals that are, their noses are in the books, right? So, hey, we've got here's the list, or here's the resources. These are the books that you need to read for this test. And in my opinion, you post it up there. We have a test. These are the books that are off of it. Whatever. Now you've got people who are that want to do it, who are actively learning. They're actively going to be in those books. They're trying to digest that knowledge and what have you. And then also it does create a little bit of that competition, and it empowers people to to talk to their officers maybe and say, hey, I really want to take that lieutenant's exam. I'm interested in hearing about what parts of the exam were hard for you, or what parts of this job would you say are the hardest or the easiest, and something like that. Because realistically, if we're just waiting for somebody to retire before we put out a list, you're counting on people. And I want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt that every day they're on shift, they are doing some sort of training. Every day they're trying to make themselves better. But I know that there's departments out there that struggle with motivation and stuff like that. If you have those active lists, I feel like people are going to be more likely to want to keep their knowledge up for when that test or when that promotion comes.
Yeah.
Y'all ever heard their stories of like, we know Freddie's about to retire and he knows I'm next on the list. You ever heard this guy's buying out the other person?
Oh yeah, I've seen it almost happen. Like there's been negotiations. Like, hey, this in my first department, hey, this list expires in 2 months, man. I already passed it. You're close.
I seen in a city where like the next person on the list is about to get promoted and they're waiting for my spot. And that guy's like, I don't like him. I'm going to stay just one day. I'm going to wait 1 day later and he's not going to get this position.
Dude, same circus, different clowns.
Yeah.
And everybody that is watching this, and if they're at work or they're firemen, whatever, they know exactly what we're talking about. And it's called manipulation. Firefighters are so good at manipulating the system, and it's not in a bad way. Like, just, like, it's our jobs to go out and figure out people's problems and to solve them and to manipulate a situation sometimes in order to get something done. Right. Like, we can't, like, if somebody calls 911, this is the greatest part about our job. If somebody calls 911 and you drive out there, I mean, you can't say 100% because it's never 100%, but 99.9% of the time, we're going to figure out a solution. You know what I mean? And it's no different than, hey, trying to get time off, trying to promote, whatever it is. Like, it's just so funny. And I have to bring that up because, it just sparked a light bulb in my brain when you said that. But it's 100%. You hear that. And it can be a detriment. What we're talking about having these lists, and I think it's a great thing. At the end of the day, anything can be manipulated, and it will be. But at the end of the day, I think it's a good thing to have these lists because, I've heard these old guys, oh, they're just trying to push me out. They're just trying to push me out. Like, it's like, man, you go senile at the end of your career. It's like, nobody wants you out, like, we need your expertise and whatever it is. But I love having these lists. I think that the way that we do it and continually learning. But what I was also going to say is when you're on these lists, and like I've told you, I've been on a list for the past 4 years or so, right? I ended up getting promoted to engineer, which was great, but now I'm on a captain's list. You're always under the gun. You're always under the gun. We go to training and you drive up as an engineer, all la-di-da, and they're like, hey, you're up next as the captain, because you're on the list. And it's like, your sphincter gets all tightened but it's the way it is. And it's the way that we learn. And I don't know. I think it's all positive.
See, and I think that's awesome with your department where they identify those people that are on that list and they say, all right, here you go. Like, let's learn. Let's learn right now. Like, it's it's not a secret club that you don't get to know anything about it until you're actually in it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're somebody that's on a list, you would really hope that those officers above you or even 2 steps above you'd be like, hey man, looks like you're going to be up next. Let's show you some stuff. Here's the mistakes that I've made when I've been in this position, to learn from it. The one thing that kind of leads into that is like, as maybe leaders of our fire department, not necessarily officers, you can still inspire and empower people to become officers or take those tests. How do we identify the correct person for the job? Because I'm sure everybody out there knows somebody who's awesome at taking tests, right? But then you put them out in the middle of a field and they panic and they freeze because all they are good at is reciting words
Sure.
back at you. They got the book smart. They don't have the street smart, and then you might have somebody who's, the best firefighter. He's a leader on scene or what have you, but you tell him, hey, there's a test coming up. Here's the book that you read. And they look at it and it's in Chinese and they literally can't take the book info and put it in their brain. Mm-hmm. So how do we identify the correct person for those officer roles, and how can we make these tests and make these promotional processes efficient enough to get that right person, whether it be a test or whether it be the manipulative test or oral interviews or seniority based or what have you?
You can only do so much. Yeah. There's no such thing as perfect. The people that put in for promotions, whether they're right or wrong, you should have some sort of system or some sort of process that weeds the people that aren't ready for that test or for that next position. It'll weed them out if you have a good enough process. And we're talking to people that have 1 station departments, and we're talking to people that have 200 station departments across the country. And so, it's funny to me because, like, my culture, and I always say, I think I've probably said culture, the word culture in every podcast, but it's so true. Like, some things just work for your department and the culture. This is how you've always done it. It's not saying it's the best way to do it, but again, I go back to somebody calls 911. They need us to figure out a problem. Typically there's 50 ways to skin that cat. And me as an officer, I'm going to come up with the best way that I think possible. The guy over there might come up with a whole different way, but at the end of the day, we both meet in the middle and we figure out the problem. So you bring it back to culture. Each department has its own, and like, what's the perfect way to do it? Like, there is no perfect way to do it. And there's no right way to do it. To be honest, could there be a wrong way to do it? Yeah, sure. I mean, to not train at all, to just sit in the brown chairs and eat until the tones go off. That would be, in my, opinion, the wrong way to do it. But I think that, a promotional process needs to be competitive. There needs to be multiple people in it, and I mean, we're talking to, 1 station department to the 200 station department. It's very big difference.
Do your departments let you know what you did good and what you did bad in your process to make you help you be better?
So, and that's an interesting point too. Hey, we've got this guy ranked above you. Yeah, that's interesting. We got this guy ranked above you, and here's why.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point.
Like Matt said, culture. I'm all about building people up. I've seen people how to make myself better than Freddie. Well, I got to step on his back. Well, Freddie, he did this, and that, and other thing yesterday. He's bad. Instead of building, selling myself, I'm going to talk bad about you. I hate when people do that. Yeah. Our department, fire department in general, nobody ever leaves. They're there for 20 years, 30 years. So we have to work with everybody. We should be building each other up. I know there's ding dongs everywhere we go. We all got that one guy, Carl, that most people call. I don't have a Carl, but we just got to help each other and try to build each other up. There always will be that one ding dong. There's very little you can do for that guy or girl, but you just can't just be stepping on each other's backs all the time. You got to build each other up.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
One thing that we've struggled with in our department is we take a test. Let's say there's 8 people that take the test. Let's say 5 people passed it. Well, who's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5? Like, where am I on the list? If I can anticipate when I'm going to get, and so there's multiple reasons why they're not going to tell us that. And HR has a big say and not wanting to even give our test results. I'm like, I never went, to an elementary school or high middle school, high school, the fire academy, where I took a test and I didn't get my results back ever in my life. But now I'm a firefighter. I take an engineer's exam and I have no clue what I got.
And we're worried about showing everybody your score.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know where I'm weak at.
Well, I think HR says, hey, you got a 82 on the test, let's say, right? Out of 100. Okay. And then firefighter X got a 92, right? But the 82 gets promoted first. Whoa. So is the 92 gonna file a grievance against the city, and then they have to fight that whole deal? So there's a little bit of a political uproar on that whole thing, and they've never given us a cut and dry, black and white, this is why we do not give it to you. I mean, sometimes I've even told that the fire chief doesn't even know how we did. they literally just, HR goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 5 that passed out of 7. Congratulations. Go ahead and promote one of them, And so
one of them. Not in order. You don't have to be in order. Yeah.
No.
And that's where I think having something where you have a test, you have an oral interview, maybe you have a manipulative test, some of your yearly evaluations go into it, stuff like that. You can have seniority go into it. You get a certain amount of points or what have you, because then it almost does remove that favoritism out of it. If the 82 gets promoted over the 92, and it's just because you happen to be drinking buddies with the chief when you guys were both in the ranks, like, yeah, is that the best way to do it? I don't think so, because people are going to want to surround themselves with like-minded people, and I personally think that if you have an entire group of officers that think the exact same way, you're not going to get anything done. You need guys who are people who will question each other, because questioning encourages growth. Like you get out of the rut that you're in. Well, we've always done it this way. Firefighters hate 2 things: the way things are and change, right? Yeah. They hate the way it is, but they don't want to change it.
Yeah.
So if we get stuck in a rut, we used to pull our engines with horses and put out fire by digging a hole in the ground and hitting a wooden main. We don't do that anymore. At some point we were able to get out of that rut. So having conflicting ideas, I think, is very healthy. And so being able to look at that crop of officers that you have and being like, all right, this guy would be really good for the department because X, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's healthy. And that's where the last point that I wanted to bring up was the culture we're talking about. It really does start at the top, because we've all had that awesome officer that we will remember forever. We've all shared stories on these past 10 podcasts about a great officer that we've had or what have you. But I'm positive we can all think of that officer that we're like, that dude, I would not, if we were at a bar together, I would not buy him a beer, or I would, it's not something, if I had to decide between him and another guy I'd choose nobody, or, you know what I'm saying? We've all had that officer. And it's crazy how much one officer can almost take the morale of a shift down, or take the air out of the balloon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The fish stinks from the head. That's for sure.
There you go. Yeah.
We all know what you're talking about, Fred.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And nobody wants to bring up that officer, because they probably still work with him.
Yeah.
Not the bad one, the good ones. Yeah.
Right, Carl?
Don't want to talk about Captain Carl.
Yeah.
I'll talk about one chief I got. He's an asshole. Sorry, but I love him to death.
Yeah.
Is everybody, that guy, that officer in your life, is he somewhat of a jerk?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
On purpose.
The good officer. The good officer.
Oh, the good officer?
Yeah. He's some kind of jerk. Because some level of a jerk.
Maybe to the people who are deserving, let's say. The ones around the department that maybe need a little encouragement, and they've now been encouraged 6 or 7 times. They're not getting the point. Then that awesome officer that I'm specifically thinking of right now, who is nice to everybody, if he's not nice to you, you're doing something wrong, because he tries to be nice to everybody.
Yeah. Mine's he plays rough, and he's really good with his words and everything. So, but like, if he doesn't joke on you or mess with you, that means he really doesn't like you. He wants to stay away from you. He's just a fantastic guy. Kind of act like a jerk, like a mean kind of guy, but he actually cares. And I have never felt more safe in a fire than with that officer.
Absolutely.
It's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as we're going to try and do each episode here, we're going to do our real quick moment of silence for anybody that we have lost in the fire service, first responder we've lost in the last week or so. So we're going to do that quick moment of silence. Thank you guys for that. We are going to jump into now the recipe. My recipe for this week is a really cool
meatloaf
side salad. What's that? It's meatloaf. And I would do anything.
But it's chicken meatloaf. It's different.
Sorry.
Made,
I had to.
It's made with guinea fowl. No. We have a really nice orzo salad. It has some snap peas, some feta, some cherry tomatoes, orzo, red wine vinegar, and a little bit of olive oil. I tell you what, it's a perfect salad to put on the side of a burger or really anything. It's great to bring to a potluck. That'll be up on our website. Check them out. We have a rookie tip that we're gonna see if we can have Doug jump in for.
Doug. Hey, we didn't mention
Doug.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yes. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. We're sporting the green here. If you are listening to this in the morning, please drive safely. Uber costs significantly less than a DUI.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to see if Doug comes in here. We'll give it a couple more seconds. If we don't grab him, then he let me know what his
Hey, while we have this silence, if you're watching this, we still have a ton of people that watch our stuff on YouTube and don't subscribe. Over half of the listeners on YouTube aren't subscribers.
Yeah, without being cliche of the smash the like button, subscribe, click the bell. It does legitimately help out us by just hitting subscribe, and you can turn your notifications off if you want, if it's not something that you like, but it does help push us out to more people so that hopefully we can get a good group of people that are listening to the podcast, and we can hear some feedback from you guys.
We hopefully got an opportunity coming up here pretty soon to be able to give some money to a charity. So look out for that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, we haven't really locked it down 100% yet, but we have a possible opportunity, which is super cool. And all of us here at the Cool Fireman podcast are super stoked on that. So look out for that.
Yeah, we got some cool things in the works here.
Yeah.
All right, so what we're going to do here is Doug's tip for this week is that he wants you to remember the rookies, the 10-year guy, the 20-year guy, the 40-year guy. 40 years, my God. Is to share your job with your friends and your family. I know a lot of us, when we get off the job, we want to take off that hat, take off that coat, leave it at work. But being able to, this taps into that mental health again, being able to kind of decompress, share with your family, maybe some minor details, the ins and out of your day or what happens at the job. Obviously, keeping HIPAA in mind, we're not going to share, patient information with our families, but it does help to understand, helps our families understand what we do, what a day is like in the life of a firefighter. Even if you've been on the job 10 years, married to the same person, they say, oh, you only ran 2 calls yesterday, so you must have got a whole bunch of sleep. Me personally, I don't get very restful sleep when I'm at the fire department, because at any point that tone's going to go off. So you're always kind of sleeping, kind of like that. So
especially if you're sleeping in the watch bunk,
for sure, you don't want to sleep through a call. That'd be horrible. So So Doug's rookie tip is just make sure you're sharing with your friends and family, and it helps them to understand. One more thing before we go. We have been knocking around an idea for a complete special guest to be on an episode. It may be one special guest, it may be two, it may be multiple. So stay tuned
Nick?
for that. It might be Nick. Nick might be the special guest.
Awesome.
Maybe he's listening. With that being said, we have a lot of things planned for the Cool Fireman podcast. So stay tuned, hit that button, subscribe so you can know when we're putting them out. We try and put one out every Friday. Coordinating 5 firefighter shifts, obviously, as you can see, is almost impossible. So we're going to do our best to put content out for you guys. With that being said, if nobody has anything else,
I'm going to make a hat for us that says hashtag where's Nick.
that could be our calling. Where's Nick? If we don't have anything else, then that looks like shift change. DJ, spin that music.